Welcome to another episode of Global Health Talks on the brighter side. In each episode of the podcast, I talk to incredibly inspiring global health professionals whose work is offering hope for a better and healthier tomorrow. I'm Nika Stasny, a global health PhD student and your host. Today, we have a very special episode for you, one that's a bit different from previous episode and one that really inspired me to start this podcast. It's about the power of storytelling, which is why today I'm thrilled to welcome Roberta Bosu. Roberta is a strategist, campaigner, and a storyteller whose work sits at the intersection of nature, climate, and human rights. With over 14 years of experience across diplomacy, NGOs, development organizations, and the private sector, she has led global programs and campaigns that connect people, policy, and purpose. She is a European Climate Pact ambassador, a member of the IUCN Commission on Education and Communication, and currently leads a global campaign advocating for the rights of Antarctica. Alongside this, she works across research, consulting, and her own consultancy, Revert, where she helps transform complex environmental challenges into narratives that inspire action. Today, she's here to share her journey, her work, and how stories can drive meaningful change. Roberta, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Nika.
Let's go straight into it, and let's start from the very beginning. Can you take us back to your younger self, where you grew up, and how did your environment shape you into who you are now, the way you see nature and responsibility towards it?
So I'm actually from Sardinia in Italy. Is one of the islands, the island that is in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. That is actually where I grew up, in the center of the island. So the place is called Barbagia. And the Romans called us like this because they consider us barbarians, because they never conquered that place. Because it's really a place in the middle of the mountains, but very close to the sea as well. So that's actually where I'm from. And it's, it's not the usual Sardinia, you know. So a lot of people just think about turquoise coast, the beach resorts, the food, and like the cliche Sardinia. I'm more into like the place in Sardinia that is really linked to very old traditions. So we have really an ancient carnival. We have all the mountains there, those ancient buildings that are called nuraghi. And I really recommend you to check it out, because there was an ancient civilization that is called nuraghi. And we also have our own language that is Sardo, that is being recognized by UNESCO. So that's to give you a bit of a picture. And I think I really had an amazing childhood, because I was always outside. I had the privilege to actually grow up in the countryside as well. So very close to the mountains, very close to the beach, spending a lot of time outside. And these really stayed stayed in me, actually. So it's really, I always felt this sense that I was of something, if I can say that, actually. So I was not just passing through it. I was part, and I'm still part, that's how I feel right now, of the place, of the culture. And that's who I am, actually. I'm in this way just because I grew up there and I'm from there.
That's so wonderful. I really had no idea about this part of Sardinia and about all of this culture. So being in the mountains, I can imagine how that also made you feel so connected to nature and inspiring the work you do now.
I also just realized it later, I must say. So it's not something that also when you are a kid, you're just like, okay, I just want to be like that. But I was also talking to a friend the other day, and we were mentioning rights of nature, that it's is one of the field of work that I focus on. And then I really thought about me when I was a kid, and that, well, first of all, I loved Pocahontas and I always wanted to be like her. And second, I always felt like trees or rivers were alive, you know, like that everything around me was not really my possession, but they had like their own, they were living entities, you know. And so I think definitely when I was a kid, I just never thought about it, but I'm just thinking right now that I'm a grown up and I live in a different world.
Yeah, that's beautiful, especially what you said about rivers and mountains being living entities. That's definitely something that I wanted to ask you a bit later on. But before that, now that you mentioned that it's something you discovered later. So what I'm really interested in, at which point did you discover this, and how did your path to this really look like? Because now you work in global organizations, you do research consulting, you do very creative things. So how did this path look like for you?
So the honest answer is less linear than it looks on a CV, and
Yeah.
more intentional than it looks on the outside as well. I think also, so I grew up in a household where my parents always had the same job. So they had the same job, is just like they kind of climbed the ladder as well. Like they started and then they stayed in the same company. Well, I mean, my mom is a teacher, so not really the same company, but it's always the same. And they are very much risk adverse. So when I was a kid, I always grew up thinking, okay, that's also something that I have to do. There is just one path and it's just one straight line, and that's how it should be. Spoiler alert, is not like how it should be. Every one of us has a different path. And so for me, at some point, I also got a bit frustrated because it's just, I could not really recognize myself as well. I have a background in diplomacy. So I always thought that I wanted to be an ambassador, to work in embassies and everything. And that was the path to really save the world. That's what I thought when I was a kid. And then the only way of reaching that was just to, as I said, climb the ladder, right? So to be good, to go to university, to just get a job, get better in your job. But that's not how it works. Like life is definitely like all is a mess. So then I tried to follow my own path. So I really kind of had a conversation with myself. I thought, okay, what do I like to do? And then it was just going more into the field of sustainability. That is a very broad word, but that's actually how it worked. I just got into a lecture when I was at the university. I studied in Bologna, but at that time I was doing my Erasmus in Montpellier in France. I went to this lecture that it was about the link between gender and climate change. And then I thought, okay, I want to write the thesis about this. And that's actually when it was a series of things that created this domino and crazy mess in my life as well. And so at some point, I really thought, okay, that's my path. And the path doesn't need to be linear, but it can be really like full of waves as well, like full of differences. And like at the moment that I really realized that, I think it changed my way of seeing, well, first of all, of judging myself as well, because we are our worst judge, but also of seeing what progress means, what happiness is as well, because it's for some people, happiness means also, or progress means really being the CEO of a company, and it's okay. But that was not really for me. I really wanted to try other things. And that's probably why right now I do multiple things. But that's my meaning of happiness, at least. That's my path.
If you don't mind me asking, if it's not too personal, you mentioned not
No,
judging
absolutely.
yourself. What did you judge yourself for? What was mostly going through your head of maybe I shouldn't take this diverse path?
So I think at some point, I tried different things as well. So I worked before for NGOs and also for the public sector. And then I wanted to try something new, and I ended up in the private sector. So I was working in a big corporation, like doing leading amazing campaigns. Maybe we can touch upon also later. So if you think about it from a linear perspective, from the things that you need to do, then I checked all the boxes. I went to university, had a nice job, like really satisfying. I was also earning well. But then from a personal perspective, I really realized that that was not really what I wanted to do. So this moment where actually you think and you say, okay, why are you not happy as you should be because you checked all the boxes? Then I really kind of judged myself, because I thought I followed all the rules, and I'm now at the moment where I should be the happiest, the most satisfied, but then something is not really clicking. And there is a lot of judgment that is mainly coming from you or from society, because that's the path that you should take. But when you free yourself from those judgments, then that's where freedom is coming. And I also want to make a note about this. I think I acknowledge my privilege, because I was also like privileged on having the time and the time and the possibility to actually even leave the job. That's what I did at some point. And then I started freelancing and I have my own company. So you need time, you need resources, personal resources, energy, a system that is supporting you. So I feel definitely privileged that I could take this decision.
Yeah, I really appreciate you making that note, but of course it takes courage and it takes a lot of work and a lot of thought processes that you all did. So now that you have went through all this questioning and all this work to get to where you are now, wearing all these multiple hats as an advocate, consultant, strategist, researcher, can you walk us through your typical week so that anyone who's listening is getting a better idea of everything that you're doing? Because honestly, I mean, everything looks amazing. And for me, I don't know how you fit it all in. It looks so. I would love to understand how would your typical week look like, and is there a typical week at all?
Exactly. I think that's actually the good question. So no, there is not a typical week. But I'm saying this without a single trace of complaint. I mean, that's also why I decided to quit my job as well, because I wanted to explore more things. So, I would say there is not a typical week. Maybe what is there are rhythms. So like there are some weeks where I'm really I need to go to a lot of events. And so I'm really focusing on, okay, I will need to go to this conference. You need to prepare to the conference. Like there are some people that just think that you show up. Hey, amazing. I'm prepared. But there is a lot of work also to go to conferences. So that, there are some weeks that are more into the research modes. For example, when I'm writing articles, or when I also do, for the campaign that I'm leading for Antarctic rights, there is also a lot of research that you need to do. A lot of how am I going to communicate that? How do I design this? So it's really a lot of preparation. And also managing the European Climate Pact. So I'm the coordinator for the Netherlands. I'm managing a lot of grassroots initiatives that are happening in the Netherlands. So a lot of times it's just like the rhythm is being there present. Like you need to support the other ambassadors on the initiatives. And I must say, this is sometimes my favorite part, because you can really combine a lot of my mental work, like a lot of work preparing campaigns is also mental. Like you have a lot of mental work to the physical part. Like we have a composting group, for example, in the Netherlands where we go. We organize climate walks. So you can actually compensate the two parts. And that's why I say there is not really a typical week, because it's sometimes I call my mom and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to Paris right now. And then a couple of days after, I'm just like, oh yeah, we are actually doing some compost garden, and now we are just removing the worms and putting the thing. And my mom is just like, what's going on? So it's the beauty. I mean, some people really need consistency and routine.
Mm-hmm.
But this is actually how my week looks like. And if I could add just the last thing, because I also don't want to seem like, okay, it's all chaos. I think I need a bit of freedom in the framework. So I also try to have like some routines. For example, training for me is really important. Writing is also really important. So I always try to or write on my notebook, or even like in the notes of on my phone as well. So that at least I have some moments where I'm just focusing on things that are my routine.
Yeah, absolutely. That was such a beautiful run over through everything. So I would kind of, now I see it as kind of a lot of background work, I can imagine. Like as a researcher, I definitely understand the part of so much preparation that goes behind something that might seem way shorter than the preparation took, of course. And then all these events that you have to show up and advocate for. So just to also put it a bit more into, how to say, a mental image for anyone that's listening, when you sit at a panel at a major conference, maybe you can give us an example of a recent event you had and kind of run us through the work that you had to do to get you there and how you put it into action at a conference.
Actually, good timing for this because I just came back from a couple of conferences. So that's, I think I can mention one. So I went to Milan, and it was a conference where actually the audience was quite different from the audiences that I usually interact with. So it was a conference on governance and tech. And then you think like, what were you doing there? But the organizers thought actually very smartly, I must say, to also invite people that were working on the connection with nature. So there were two keynotes, and one was mine. So the other one was from an amazing woman, Viola Follini, actually, that is working on the connection with nature, like a plan for the connection with nature in the municipalities. But then the second one was me. So for me, it was just like, okay, I need to prepare a presentation of 15 minutes that is a keynote in front of an audience that is expecting something related to governance and tech. And I'm there talking about the rights of nature and Antarctica. Mm-hmm. So something that is also not really fitting. So then you spend some weeks before, so you need to know who is in the room. What do they already believe? What do they know? What they are afraid of? I think also, like from a stories perspective, you also need to understand the emotions. So not only their level of knowledge from a like educational perspective or from a content perspective, but also like their emotions. Are they like interested in the topic? What can we tell, or can I tell that can be I hate this word, but I'm gonna use it, a hook, like that can be interesting for them, that can engage with them. I think that's also the goal. And that also you need to understand what is the conference actually trying to accomplish. And those are rarely all the same things in the different conferences. So you need to be prepared. And I must say there are people that really prepare like an outline of everything they're going to say. And for me, it doesn't work because I get, maybe I'm crazy, but I just get confused because I never follow the script. And then if I just look at this word, then I get lost and then I just freeze as well. So I just like maybe write some bullet points or things that I want to say. But for me, what is really important is really connecting with the audience. And that's difficult because it's easier said than done. But that's the goal. So I research at first, preparation. Like I must say that the part where you go and you are at the conference is probably the 5% of what actually happens. And you're a researcher, you know that as well.
Absolutely. And now that you mentioned that you don't make the outline, that you just make tiny bullet points, but that you get confused, that means that you have to be very good improvisation, Is that something that you practiced, or, and because I always think that, well, people who are like that have no fear, but then people always say like, no, I've practiced a lot.
Can I lie? No, I don't practice. I mean, I'm very.
Okay, you're the natural good speaker. Okay.
No, I don't know. Actually, maybe it's just I don't know if I'm a good speaker or not. Actually, but I think it's just for me is that like it's really the practice. Like I love to talk and I use my empathy. So I always try to understand also the emotions and feelings of the others. And that's a power skill that, I don't know, the universe gave me. And I try to use it as well. I must say, I would definitely need to practice more. I also thought about going to an improv course. I don't know how to fit it in my agenda right now. So I didn't go. But that's something that I think I would love to do. What I think is like my trick is that I know what I want to say. And sometimes I will not say it perfectly, but everything that I'm actually doing comes from not only the knowledge of the content, but also that I really believe in it. And so yeah, it's not something that I'm preparing, and I am sure that I will not say it in a perfect way, but I don't want to be perfect. That's also the
Mm.
point. That also, I think if I will have a script, I will also sound more fake probably,
Mhm.
and I don't want to sound like this. So yeah, you get the package, and it's an imperfect package.
Yeah, but as you said, it's an honest one. One where you really believe in what you're saying, and with the part of you mentioning the empathy and really wanting to connect with the audience, I now feel like that's really the key. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also when you write things as well, like I mean, I'm feeling also right now that a lot of people want just to catch the attention, especially on social media as well. So everyone is just saying, oh, you need to just grab the attention in the first,
Hmm.
I don't know, 3 seconds, and you need to do that. And like, I get the point that you also need to be entertaining as well. So I understand that people will not read a report of 500 pages. Okay, we've all been there. But I also don't agree on the fact that everything needs to be just like shortened up and made entertaining, and we have to dance in TikToks just to make it entertaining. I think it's also like not fair to the audiences and to the people that are listening and using and reading the content as well. So emotions are key, but we don't have to downgrade the
Hmm.
emotions in a way that just, okay, so people will see them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I knew immediately what you meant when you said that you hate the word hook. Because yeah, I definitely know what you mean by that, because it's I see it as a bit manipulative and really, you cannot just say anything how you want to say it just for that effect. We also have some responsibility, so I also sometimes get a bit frustrated with that.
I think that for me, what is really important is that genuinity. I really value when a person is genuine, and that doesn't mean that like you need to be perfect. Like every one of us has weaknesses, strengths, but if you're genuine and if you really believe in what you are saying, then it's not a problem for me. It doesn't need to come with a nice, I don't know, dance or music or whatever. So that's what I think that is also fair. Like if people are following you, are listening to you, are reading what you write, they can feel if it's genuine or not, or if you are just treating them as consumer. That is
Hmm.
something that I think, especially in the last years, also that's something that I bring back from when I was working in a corporate, like that they define people as consumers, and then it feels more like, you're just a commodity, something that I need to sell you something, but that's not what I want, and that's also what I try to avoid when I write or when I go to conferences.
Yeah, exactly. And to follow up on that immediately so that listeners can have an idea of your writing and what you're trying to achieve with it and what it's doing. I really reached out to you. I think you know that because I was moved by some pieces that you wrote. And there's a piece of
Oh,
writing on controversies and confluences that really stayed with me. And I would love to read a short piece of it. If it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, it's
no, no,
gonna be
no,
a
go
short
ahead,
one.
go ahead,
So
go
just so
ahead.
that everyone, can get, let's say, the hook. So if they want to read a bit more as well. So I'm gonna read one piece from the Conferences and Confluences. I come from the Amazon basin, accountable to 390 billion trees and the people who live with their breath. I speak for the Mediterranean, already bearing the heat of choices made 1,000 kilometers away. I am the voice of Antarctic ice, which shapes the rain that falls on your children's farms. You are not from a country, you are from a river. When did you realize that storytelling wasn't just a talent of yours, but the central part of your work in climate and sustainability?
Oh my God, I'm just discovering there is a talent of mine. No, I'm very moved actually that you liked. I always like to write actually, so I don't know if it's a talent. It's just something that makes me feel balanced as well. So I just do it because I still remember one of my teachers in primary school said to my mom that I had a word inside me, And the only way that I could express this word was by writing. And funnily enough, she was actually criticizing me because I was just more present when I was writing than, like, you know, those kids that are always like super active in school. And so that was actually, like, I always loved to write. I actually wanted to become a journalist when I was a kid, and then a photographer, like to describe the world that was around me. So I don't know how I ended up actually. Right now I just write because I want to do it. If it makes me feel balanced, it makes me feel also that I can connect with people more. And then I think I had a part, like I really leveraged this. I don't know if I could call it skill, but this ability, this way of expressing in different ways. So when I was working for a corporate, for example, I was managing the sustainability strategy for this company. And so this was just to tell the stories of products or even brands as well. So I always try to find what's the story there. And now I get it to do it more or for myself, or to really write about climate disinformation, or to write and vent about something, to be honest. Sometimes it was just like the piece that I wrote about confluence and conferences also came a bit of out of frustration, because I was coming back from COP 30. And I was there representing Antarctic rights. And I don't know if you know, but at the UN conferences, you don't really have a representation of Antarctica, because Antarctica has no indigenous people. So Antarctica has no voice in those decision making. And so I really thought, but why are we still talking about countries and boundaries? And like, if we actually think about waters and rivers and like even ecosystems, we should not really think about that, because the Amazon doesn't really belong to just one country. It's just an ecosystem that is there, the ocean as well, the rivers. And so it was out of a frustration, and I started writing, and that the piece came as well.
You said that, well, you write for yourself, most importantly. I think that's the greatest motivation to do anything creative, firstly for yourself. But I mean, you also made it fit into what you do, which I think is amazing. So what I'm wondering about is about this creativity and the artistry. Do you think there is spaces and that it's needed and asked for in research, policy, in general in global institutions? Do you think that there's this room for all of that, or is that something we still have to make? Because I think it's needed.
Yeah, it's needed. Short answer is needed. We need to fix it. And I think there is still a lot of content, and that's also why, like, a lot of us are expressing our feelings, because especially now, like with the geopolitics, everything that is happening, a lot of us also felt that we are losing hope towards the institutions, towards also the political space. I mean, I studied diplomacy, and then I see right now that international law is not respected at all. And and I have a lot of friends that are also feeling like, okay, a bit of a frustration. And I'm feeling that there is no representation for other type of languages. So there is also just one, like, institutions are very much based on abstraction and content and models that are mainly white or Western centered as well. So there are also ways of learning that are very much the same. You have reports, we have frameworks, the white paper, the resolutions, and it's all written in a language that is designed to be precise, but is really unreadable by a lot of human that is not already living in those systems. And that's what we need, because this is not just is not a style choice. So it's not neutral, but it's a power structure. So if you just have this structure, you decide who gets to participate in those conversations.
Yep.
And so we need to actually bridge, destroy this wall, I would say as well, because I really deeply believe that the climate crisis will not be solved without the art, without the creativity, not just because it's that decoration that you have in the room, but art, storytelling, creativity is how humans process all the impossible things. Like how we get the imagination, how we can imagine different worlds. And it's not through a resolution or a white paper. A resolution is needed as well, but it's not the way that you can connect with people.
Well, I'm just soaking in what you said, that it's just so beyond. I also see it like, I mean, first I saw it as this beautiful thing, but now you made such a good point about how it's deeply needed. Like that we cannot go without it, that it's just a way for all of us to communicate and to understand each other.
I think also it needs to be more inclusive, because I'm working a lot with indigenous people from the Maori, also from the First Nations in Canada or in the Pacific Islands. And I'm learning a lot on how even the words that we use are even excluding or catalogizing nature or other beings. And so a lot of the documents, even institutions or the politics in general, are really written by the same system that is even downgrading or degrading even nature. Like if you think about, sometimes we just use the word resource or natural service or ecosystem service. And that's actually putting nature, like describing nature in a way that is not, because we are not thinking that is like that we are part of it, And those are the small things about language, about art, about creativity that we need to bring into these spaces more and more.
Yeah, exactly. To switch direction a little bit, something that you already mentioned, you worked on global campaigns with major brands such as Adidas, Uniqlo, PepsiCo. And would you like to share some insight on how those experiences were like? What did it mean working at campaigns at such a big level? And how does it differ from the work you do right now?
I loved working on this campaign. So first thing, and it's like working at this scale is really different because you have a huge reach. Like you can really be creative. You have more budget as well. Let's also be honest. Like you are talking about influencing millions of people. Like think about Uniqlo or PepsiCo. They are really everywhere. And then, so you can really reach high, you have more budget, you could really think about in a very creative way, like you can have different tools. So it's like the reach is big, but also your creative power can really be fueled by different things. Like I worked on amazing videos or animations as well. Like we had to do something for Decathlon that it was really kind of, animation with comics. So it was really cool, I must say as well. But on the downside is also very, like when you work for big brands, you also have scrutiny. Like there are a lot of layers, like a lot of approval as well. So this really made me, like I learned a lot from what is actually the architecture of large organization, where the decisions get made, what it takes to move something through legal, marketing, like what are the steps? And if I can translate this into the work that I do right now, is that I think that this is a language that I learned. So I know what it takes also for big companies to make a decision, so that also the changes cannot happen from one day to another as well. And that also, like some rules are also the same. Storytelling is not a nice thing to have. They also need to not only, like, even if you talk about a product, people are not really interested in the product itself, but also, like, especially when we talk about sustainability, people are really interested in the story, in the commitment. What is the company really doing about it? Who is behind? And that's also something that was useful for me to take into now the campaigns that I'm working.
I think it's such an amazing experience, and of course, it reaches so many more people. I wanted to ask you now. This is like going in a completely different direction. I would say a more personal one. I've read that you received comments like, "How can you care about a place you've never been to?" And here we speak about Antarctica. How do you respond to that on a personal level? How do you keep going when your work is questioned or misunderstood?
I think it also depends on who is this comment coming from. And also you
Mm-hmm.
need to understand, is this coming as a constructive feedback, as a skepticism, or is coming just as a critic for itself? Because there are also those kind of critics. Like there are also people that just want to put you down and that's it. So you really need to like believe in yourself, believe in what you're saying. And I think I always need to remind myself that it's not about me. So that like is a process. You're removing your ego and thinking, okay, in the case of the campaign for Antarctica, like what is important is really bringing Antarctica everywhere. Like the voice of Antarctica is not about me, it's not about Roberta. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is that I think uh, for I work on campaigns that are really questioning the habits of people, like the mindsets of people as well. Like I'm questioning the relationship of humans with nature. I'm asking people to connect with a place that is very, very far away. I'm asking people to do something in their own communities, to talk, to be engaged. And this is very confrontational for a lot of people. So I also learned that I don't have to take those things personally, but I also need to meet people where they are. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think from that also we all need to understand our relationship with nature in the or to other human beings in the path that we are used to and we are ready for. Because if I tell you, for example, oh, you need to become vegan tomorrow, if you are not ready for it, yeah, it will not work like this approach.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, is a lot
Yeah.
of internal work as well, I must say.
And for someone who deeply cares about nature and climate change, but feels overwhelmed and isn't sure where to start, so now that we talked about meeting people where they are, what would you tell them at these very beginnings?
Uh, mm, I think my advice is to start where you are already, where you already are, and not where you think you should be. Because I think that was also like going back to what we said at the beginning about criticizing myself as well. I had this idea of being a perfect activist. So I know everything, I do everything right, and this is a trap. Like it will never get you anywhere, and it becomes also a barrier to participation, a barrier to create a community. So what I found that is way more effective, more human, talking about empathy as well, inviting people into shared imperfect practices. So be an imperfect activist. Like we need everyone, we need every role. So just start where you are. Like, for example, maybe you are interested in comics, for example, or drawing. Then use that skill to get into your community to make people think about the climate crisis in your own way. And maybe in the meantime, you're not perfectly vegan. It's okay. Like you start from something and don't be harsh with yourself
Mm-hmm.
because the perfect activist, like someone told me, perfection is the enemy of action. And it's very true.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of skills do you think they should focus on building at this point?
Uh, I don't know if it's just really a skill, but is really like connect with your community, like be empathetic, be curious as well, like what's in for the others, like what the others care. So it's not only like you also need the knowledge. So but again, you are probably knowledgeable on something that you are already focusing on. And we need all the skills and we need all the roles, all the like knowledge that you already have because you can get better in something. Again, let's say you are a writer. So start from your skill. And then what you need is maybe creating those skills that are less on a paper, but more on a personal level, on a human right. Like start with empathy, start with connecting with the community. Because a lot of time, they ask me, oh, but how can you keep hope in this place?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer is always community. I know amazing people that are doing things at the local level, at the regional level, at the national level, even at the global level. And we are the majority. That's also the point. Like we maybe might receiving a lot of bad news that is just news about a minority of people, of course, with a lot of power, a lot of billions and a lot of bad ideas, but they are still a minority. The
Mm-hmm.
majority of us is doing amazing things. So really, I
Mm-hmm.
think if we have to nurture, if it's not a skill, but if we have to improve something, is definitely like the connection with your community, be a more active citizens because we have a power as citizens, be a better neighbor, be better in having a relationship with the ecosystems, with the animals around you, with the rivers, with the trees, and find your space there. Because I think, yeah, you will not only be useful, allow me to say that, in this climate crisis, but it will also be a better human being, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I cannot agree more. And you say that I understand absolutely your point when you say that you don't think it's a skill getting out in the communities, but I would argue that the ability to connect with others, especially with people that are different from you, is a skill. And what takes to do that is active listening and listening more
Yeah.
than speaking. And I think that's definitely a skill. And why I'm highlighting it right now is because it's really a skill that I see mostly, maybe because I care for it so deeply. That's the one I notice mostly people lacking.
Yeah,
So
and
that's why.
also they want to say something smart and they want to say
Mhm.
something that, yeah, I think is, yeah, it lacks the empathy. I mean, like we really need to go back to emotional intelligence.
And for the last question, I'm sure that anyone who was listening is already feeling inspired by everything what you said. But is there some message of hope you can give for young listeners? Something that's keeping you hopeful right now?
Um, I, I will repeat myself as well. So I was at a conference in Paris, and there was this speaker. Actually, that was saying like we have all this despair, like we are having a lot of bad news all over, but is also the first time that he saw in years, since I think he was a guy of 60 something years old. So in his life is the first time that he saw that there is very much a need and a thirst for systemic change. And this give him and also me a lot of hope, actually, because we are finally talking about things that are revolutionary. If you think about it, having like the rights of Antarctica recognized, the rights of the
Mm-hmm.
ocean, like the ocean can speak, the rights of the whales, having, like we are thinking about banning fossil fuel ads from the cities, and it's already happening. Like we are talking about revolutionizing, reforesting places, having indigenous at the center as well, learning from them. I think, to be honest, there is a lot of hope. It's just that is probably needs a better PR agency, like
Mm-hmm.
the Hope
Mm-hmm.
movement. We need a better PR agency because the bad ones are definitely investing a lot of money on it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to maybe, yeah, the hope you can find it in, well, first of all in your community, but we need to start talking about it and start listening to each other, because if you already understand like what's the pain and the problem of your friend, of your partner, of your family, like that's actually how I started. And if I think about it, like now my mom is crazy for recycling things, and also they even started eating less meat. That for someone
Mm-hmm.
in Barbagia in the center of Sardinia is crazy. Uh, my friends started sewing, they repairing their own clothes as well. They even went to a course there. So I think that's
Beautiful.
that's also what I want and what I hope for everyone. But also having fun while you do that. Like why we should just
Absolutely.
go have a coffee and just stay inside of a cafe. Just let's go to a market, like let's walk around. And like, I think we need to start branding being sustainable in a way that is definitely less boring than people think. So yeah, again, maybe we need a better PR agency.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the point about that hope needs better PR, that we can find it in the community. And I mean, above the community, we can take, I guess, more effort into getting to the information that, for example, you have just shared with us, that there's so beautiful, so many beautiful things happening. I want to really thank you for making the time to have this talk with me. I think you are doing such inspiring work and just fully being yourself in it. And I'm sure that a lot of people who are going to listen to this, I know they're going to take this with them and feel inspired as well.
Oh, thank you, Nika. You are too kind. No, thank you. Thank you very much for giving the time to me. If I can just, I don't know, give a bit of a hope to someone, I'm very happy. And also I want to add, if people want to reach out, they can reach out on Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever they want. I will be happy to answer questions and yeah, I don't know, be annoying like I am.
Thank you so much, Roberta. I'm sure everyone will appreciate it. I really hope you have enjoyed this episode and got inspired from Roberta as much as I did. I'm still in awe of her energy and humbleness, and I wholeheartedly recommend you following her on Instagram and LinkedIn. Firstly, to read her beautiful writing, it will make your day, and secondly, learn all the projects she's working on. I'm leaving all the links below in the description for you. So feel free to reach out to her and, of course, to me if you have any topic, person, project that you would love to share or would love to know more about. And of course, if you have enjoyed this episode, click the little follow button, subscribe, and share to a friend that you know would also love this episode.